I have bigger dreams, but I will start tomorrow.
Have you ever told yourself, I'll start tomorrow, and somehow tomorrow never came? You said you'd study, launch that business, hit the gym, but weeks slipped into months and nothing changed. That's exactly how Aaron's life collapsed. Until one old monk taught him a lesson that destroyed procrastination forever. And you too will overcome procrastination if you watch this video, and you will learn from it. Please give this video a like and subscribe this channel for life-changing stories. In the quiet village of Brookvale, nestled between rolling hills and ancient oak trees, lived a young man named Aaron Mitchell. At 23, he possessed everything he needed to succeed. Sharp intelligence, creative ideas that sparked like fireworks in his mind, and a genuine desire to make something of himself. Yet he had one fatal flaw that wrapped around him like invisible chains. He could never start anything on time. "Tomorrow I'll begin," he'd say, his voice always confident, always certain. Tomorrow came. He said the same thing again. Days turned into weeks. Weeks folded into months. Months melted into years, and his dreams began to fade like morning mist under a harsh sun. Aaron wanted to build a business. He'd sketched out plans for a carpentry shop that would create custom furniture, the kind of pieces that told stories and lasted generations. He wanted to learn the trade properly, to feel with grain beneath his fingers and understand how joints fit together. He wanted to help his aging parents, who'd sacrificed so much to raise him and his sister. But instead of doing any of these things, he slept late, made excuses that sounded reasonable even to his own ears, and blamed bad timing for everything that went wrong. "The economy's not right yet," he'd tell his mother over breakfast, pushing scrambled eggs around his plate. "I need to research more before I start," he'd explain to his father, who'd nod slowly, disappointment settling into the creases around his eyes. "This isn't the right season to begin something new," he'd insist to his friends, who'd long stopped inviting him to join their ventures. His childhood friends had moved forward, while Aaron stood still, watching from the sidelines of his own life. Marcus had opened a small restaurant downtown that smelled perpetually of garlic and possibility. Jennifer had become a paralegal, studying at night while working during the day, her determination as solid as bedrock. Even his younger sister, Maya, had graduated nursing school and was saving lives while Aaron was still getting ready to save his own. The worst part? Aaron knew he was wasting time. Late at night, when the house fell silent and darkness pressed against his bedroom window, guilt gnawed at him like a persistent rat. He'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, mentally cataloging all the things he should have started, could have finished, would have accomplished if only he'd begun when he first had the idea. The weight of unlived potential pressed down on his chest, making it hard to breathe. One particularly gray October evening, with autumn rain drumming against the windows and the smell of his mother's pot roast filling the house, Aaron sat at the dinner table, barely tasting his food. His father, Robert, a man of few words but deep observation, set down his fork with a decisive clink against the plate. "Aaron," his father said, his voice carrying that particular tone that meant a serious conversation was coming, the kind you couldn't dodge or deflect. "Go see the monk who lives beyond the river, past the old Miller farm. His name is Masterly. He teaches men how to conquer their worst habits." Aaron's stomach tightened. "Dad, I don't need—" "You do." His father's eyes, usually soft with paternal affection, were now hard as river stones. "You're drowning, son, and you're so used to the water you don't even know you can't breathe anymore. This is a suggestion. It's an intervention dressed up as advice." His mother reached across the table and squeezed Aaron's hand, her fingers weathered from decades of work, her touch still tender. "We love you, sweetheart, but watching you waste your gifts is breaking our hearts." Maya, home for dinner between hospital shifts, still in her scrubs, looked at him with a mixture of frustration and concern. "Aaron, you're brilliant. Everyone knows it. But brilliance without action is it's just noise. Pretty noise, but still just noise." Shame burned in Aaron's throat, hot and bitter. He wanted to argue, to defend himself, to explain that they didn't understand how hard it was to start, how overwhelming everything felt, how the perfect moment never seemed to arrive. But looking at their faces, his father's stern concern, his mother's gentle worry, his sister's exasperated love, he realized his excuses had expired. They'd heard them all before, too many times, and the words had lost whatever power they once held. "Okay," he said quietly, the word feeling like surrender and possibility at the same time. "I'll go see him." The next morning arrived cold and crisp, the kind of October day that made you believe in new beginnings. Aaron almost postponed the visit. Old habits whispered seductively in his ear, suggesting he'd be better prepared tomorrow, that he should wait for better weather, that maybe next week will be more convenient. But his father's words echoed in his mind, and more importantly, the disappointment in his parents' eyes haunted him. He forced himself out of bed, pulled on jeans and a warm flannel jacket, and headed out before his courage could evaporate like dew. The walk to the monastery took him along the river path, past the old Miller farm where horses grazed peacefully in the morning light, through a stretch of woods where leaves crunched beneath his boots in shades of amber and crimson. The monastery itself sat on a hill, a simple structure of gray stone and dark wood, surrounded by gardens that even in autumn held a serene beauty. When Aaron reached the entrance, slightly out of breath from the uphill walk, his heart hammering more from nervousness than exertion, he found an old monk sweeping leaves from the stone pathway. The man moved with a fluid grace that seemed impossible for someone so elderly, each sweep of his broom purposeful and unhurried. The monk looked up, his weathered face creasing into a gentle smile, his eyes sharp and knowing despite his age. "You must be Aaron. Your father sent word you'd be coming." Aaron shifted his weight, suddenly feeling like a child called to principal's office. "Masterly, I've wasted years doing nothing. I always plan to start tomorrow, but never do. I don't know what's wrong with me." The monk's smile faded into something more serious, more compassionate. He set his broom aside with care, as if even that simple tool deserved respect. "Follow me. There's something you need to see." Masterly led Aaron through the monastery grounds, past buildings made of ancient stone, through courtyards where other monks tended to various tasks with quiet focus, until they reached a walled garden at the back of the property. When the wooden gate creaked open, Aaron stopped short, his breath catching in his throat. The garden was a graveyard of neglect. Where flowers should have bloomed, there was only brittle, brown death. Where vegetables should have grown, there was empty, cracked earth. Dried stalks jutted from the ground like accusing fingers, and the whole space emanated abandonment and failure. "What do you see?" Masterly asked, his voice gentle but insistent, forcing Aaron to really look, really absorb the lesson before him. "Dead plants," Aaron replied, stating the obvious because he didn't yet understand the depth of what he was witnessing. "I planted these seeds months ago," the monk explained, his voice carrying a weight of intentional regret. "Beautiful seeds, full of potential, tomatoes, peppers, flowers that have brought joy and nourishment. Each morning, I walked past this garden. Each morning, I told myself, I'll water them tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll give them what they need. Does this sound familiar to you?" Aaron looked down, his cheeks burning with recognition and shame. The parallel was impossible to miss, obvious as a slap. "Yes." The monk's voice grew quieter, but somehow more powerful. "Procrastination is like poison, Aaron. Sweet at first because it feels easy to delay, to put off, to wait for the perfect conditions. It whispers that you have time, that tomorrow is just as good as today, that waiting is the same as preparing. But it's deadly. It kills slowly, almost imperceptibly, until you wake up one day and realize years have passed and you're standing in a garden of dead dreams." The words hit Aaron like physical blows, each one finding its mark because each one was true. He thought about his carpentry plans, yellowing in a drawer, his business ideas never tested, his promises to his parents never kept, his potential withering like these plants. "The truth is harsh but necessary," Masterly continued, placing a weathered hand on Aaron's shoulder. "Time whispers that you have plenty of it, when in truth, time is slipping away with every moment you hesitate. Tomorrow is a thief that you invite into your home. It steals your present while promising a future that never quite arrives." Aaron felt something crack inside him, like ice breaking on a spring river. "How do I stop? How do I change? I've tried before and always fall back into the same patterns." Masterly walked to a small shed at the garden's edge and returned with something cupped in his palm. He opened his hand to reveal a single seed, small and unpretentious, holding all its potential locked inside. "Plant this," he said, placing it carefully in Aaron's palm like he was transferring something precious. "But there's a condition, a test, if you will. You must water it every single morning without fail for 30 days, not 29 days. Not most days. Every single day. Miss one morning, just one, and your lesson is over. You'll have failed, and you cannot return." Aaron stared at the seed, feeling its weight despite its size. 30 days didn't sound that hard. 30 days felt manageable. "That's it? Just water it every day." "That's it," Massily confirmed, but his eyes held a knowing glint that suggested it would be harder than it sounded. "But understand what you're really committing to. This isn't about the plant, Aaron. This is about you learning that consistency beats intention, that daily action trumps grand plans, that who you are is defined by what you do repeatedly, not by what you intend to do someday." Aaron nodded, closing his fist around the seed, feeling its promise and its challenge. "I can do this." "We'll see," Masterly said with a knowing smile that contained no judgment, only patience. "The seed doesn't care about your promises. It only responds to your actions. Come back in 30 days, and we'll see what you've learned." Aaron accepted the seed with more reverence than he'd ever given anything, carefully wrapping it in a handkerchief from his pocket as if it were made of glass. Masterly provided him with a small clay pot filled with rich, dark soil that smelled of earth and possibility, and instructions that seemed almost insultingly simple. Plant the seed, place the pot where it would get morning sunlight, water it each day, not too much, not too little. The walk home felt different than the walk there. Aaron moved with purpose, cradling the pot against his chest, protecting it from jostling. For the first time in years, he felt something that had been absent for so long he'd almost forgotten its taste. Hope. Real hope, not the cheap substitute he'd been living on. The kind of hope that doesn't require action, that lets you dream without doing. This was different. This hope came with responsibility attached. When he got home, his mother looked up from her gardening, surprise crossing her face. "That was quick. Did you even make it there?" "I made it," Aaron said, and something in his voice made her set down her trowel and really look at him. "I got a challenge. 30 days. I have to water this plant every single morning, without missing once." His father, reading the newspaper on the porch, lowered it slowly. "And if you miss a day, then I fail. The lesson's over." Robert nodded slowly, approval flickering in his eyes for the first time in months. "Good. You need something with consequences. Something real." Aaron found the perfect spot on his bedroom windowsill, where morning light would stream in and remind him of his commitment. He planted the seed with care that surprised him, his hand surprisingly steady as he created a small divot in the soil, placed the seed gently inside, and covered it with earth that felt cool and alive beneath his fingers. Then he watered it, not too much, not too little, just as Massily had instructed. "Okay," he whispered to the pot, feeling slightly foolish but also oddly connected to the simple act. "We're doing this. 30 days. You and me." The first few mornings were easy, almost laughably so. Aaron woke up with the sunrise, his mind clear and his purpose defined. He'd pad across the cold floor to his windowsill, measure out water in a small cup, and pour it carefully around the base of where the seed lay hidden. Day 1 done. Day 2 accomplished. Day 3 getting into rhythm. It felt good, like he was finally building something, even if that something was just a relationship with a seed and some dirt. But then came day 7, and with it, a rainstorm that turned the world gray and cold. Thunder rumbled like a distant argument, and Aaron's bed felt impossibly warm and comfortable. His alarm went off, and he hit snooze just once, telling himself he'd get up in 10 minutes. 10 minutes became 20. 20 became an hour. He finally dragged himself out of bed, heart pounding with sudden panic, and rushed to his window. The plant. God, the plant. How could he have almost forgotten? His hand shook slightly as he watered it, relief washing over him that he caught himself in time. That was close. Too close. He stared at the pot, at the soil that still showed no sign of sprouting, and felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. This was exactly what Masterly was teaching him about. How easy it was to let things slip, how seductive comfort could be, how just this once was the first step toward never. Not happening, he told himself firmly, pressing his palm against the cool window glass. I'm not that guy anymore. The days progressed, each one adding to his streak, but also adding to the weight of potential failure. Day 10 arrived with a hangover from his friend Marcus's birthday party, his head pounding like someone was doing construction inside his skull. He still watered the plant, though his hands weren't steady, and he had to sit down afterward. Day 14 brought the flu, complete with fever and chills that made him feel like he was burning and freezing simultaneously. He still watered the plant, even though getting out of bed felt like climbing a mountain. Day 18 brought the hardest test yet. His sister called at 6 in the morning, frantic because she'd locked her keys in her car at a hospital and needed him to bring her spare set before her shift started. He almost ran out the door, keys in hand, then stopped so abruptly he nearly tripped over his own feet. The plant. Maya, hold on, he said into the phone, then ran to his room, watered the plant with shaking hands, and only then grabbed the spare keys and rushed out the door. His sister gave him a strange look when he arrived, slightly out of breath. You okay? You look weird. I almost forgot to water my plant, he said, and then laughed at how ridiculous that sounded given the emergency. But it wasn't ridiculous. Not really. That plant represented everything he was trying to become. The cold mornings multiplied, each one testing his resolve in new ways. Some mornings he woke up excited to water the plant. Other mornings it felt like an obligation, a chore, something he resented having to do. Those were the mornings that taught him the most. That commitment wasn't about how you felt. It was about what you did regardless of how you felt. Motivation was fleeting, but discipline could be eternal if you fed it daily. Around day 22, something remarkable happened. Aaron woke up naturally, without his alarm, and his first thought was checking the plant. Not resentfully, not out of fear of forgetting, but because it had become part of who he was. The action had carved a groove in his life, and following that groove felt more natural than resisting it. But the real miracle came on day 24. He was pouring the water, the morning light making the droplets sparkle like tiny diamonds, when he noticed something that made his heart leap. A small green shoot pushing through the soil, fragile and determined and absolutely beautiful. Oh my God, he breathed, setting down the watering cup with trembling hands. You're actually growing. He knelt beside the windowsill, studying the tiny plant like it was the most fascinating thing in the world. Which, in that moment, this wasn't just a sprout. It was proof that his daily efforts mattered, that consistency created results, that showing up worked even when you couldn't see immediate progress. The final 6 days passed with growing anticipation, and something else, a quiet confidence that felt entirely new. Aaron noticed changes beyond the plant. He started making his bed every morning, not because anyone told him to, but because if he could water a plant for 30 days, he could make his bed. He started applying for carpentry apprenticeships, not tomorrow, but now. He began sketching furniture designs again, his hands moving with purpose instead of procrastination. On day 29, the plant had transformed from a single shoot into a beautiful flower with delicate petals that caught the morning light and seemed to glow with inner radiance. Aaron stood before it, marveling at what daily action could create. From a seed to this, just because he'd shown up every single day. Day 30 arrived with perfect October weather, crisp, clear, filled with promise. Aaron watered the plant one final time, then carefully lifted the pot and began the now familiar walk to monastery. The path felt different, like he was walking taller, breathing deeper, seeing more clearly. Masterly was in the same spot where Aaron had first found him, sweeping leaves with that same unhurried grace, as if he'd been waiting all along, knowing exactly when Aaron would return. He looked up, his aged face breaking into a smile that reached his eyes. Welcome back, young man. I see you brought something with you. Aaron carefully set down the pot, the flower swaying gently in the breeze. 30 days. I watered it every single morning, without fail. Even when I was sick. Even when I didn't want to. Even when it felt pointless because nothing was happening yet. Masterly approached the plant, examining it with the attention of a jeweler appraising a diamond. This is beautiful. Strong roots, healthy growth, vibrant life. But tell me, what have you learned? And please, don't give me the answer you think I want to hear. Give me the truth you discovered. Aaron took a deep breath, organizing thoughts that had been forming over the past month like sediment settling into clear layers. I learned that waiting for the right moment is bullshit. Sorry for the language, but it is. The right moment is just a story I told myself to avoid being uncomfortable. I learned that I'm not actually bad at starting things. I was just bad at starting things immediately, without waiting for some magical perfect conditions that were never going to arrive. He paused, looking at the flower, then back at Masterly. I learned that action creates momentum, not the other way around. I thought I needed to feel motivated first, then I'd act. But it's the opposite. You act and motivation follows. You act and confidence builds. You act, and suddenly you're someone who does things instead of someone who plans to do things. Masterly nodded slowly, encouragingly, his eyes showing he was listening not just to Aaron's words, but to the truth behind them. Continue. I learned that small things matter more than big things. Watering a plant is tiny. It takes maybe 30 seconds. But doing that tiny thing every single day, without exception, taught me more than reading 100 books about productivity ever could. Consistency beats intensity. Daily discipline beats occasional heroics. Aaron's voice grew stronger, more certain. I learned that I can trust myself again. That's the biggest thing. Actually, I'd broken so many promises to myself that I didn't believe my own commitments anymore. Every time I said tomorrow, I was lying to myself, and I knew it, and it eroded my self-respect piece by piece. But now, he gestured to the flower. Now I know that if I commit to something, I can follow through. That changes everything. The monk's smile deepened, warm with approval, and something that looked like pride. And what about the mornings you didn't want to water it? The days when it felt like an obligation? Those were the most important days. Aaron said immediately, surprising himself with how quickly the answer came. Anyone can do something when they feel like it. The person you become is defined by what you do when you don't feel like it. Those hard mornings built something in me that the easy mornings couldn't. They built character. They built discipline. They built proof that I'm not controlled by my emotions or my circumstances. Masterly walked over to Aaron and placed both hands on his shoulders, looking directly into his eyes with an intensity that felt like being seen all the way down to his core. You are cured, Aaron. Not because you work hard, but because you began. The hardest step is always the first one. Take it immediately, without negotiation or delay. You didn't cure yourself with the 30th day. You cured yourself on day one, when you planted the seed instead of waiting for tomorrow. Aaron felt something shift in his chest, like a door opening that had been locked for years. It wasn't about the plant at all, was it? Oh, it was absolutely about the plant. Masterly laughed, releasing Aaron's shoulders. The plant is real. Your achievement is real. But yes, the plant was also a mirror showing you what you're capable of when you stop negotiating with yourself, when you stop waiting for perfect conditions, when you simply begin. They stood there for a moment, teacher and student, in companionable silence. The flower swayed in the breeze, alive and thriving, a testament to daily action and unwavering commitment. What will you do now? Masterly asked. Aaron didn't hesitate. I'm starting my carpentry apprenticeship on Monday. I already called Mr. Henderson. He's been looking for someone to train, and he said yes when I asked. I'm also going to help my dad fix the back porch he's been talking about for 2 years. And I'm going to keep watering this plant every single day, because it reminds me who I am now versus who I used to be. Good, Masterly said simply. Remember this. Procrastination dies the moment you act. Waiting never brings a perfect time. Action creates the right moment. You don't find opportunity. You build it one day at a time, one commitment at a time, one action at a time. Aaron bowed deeply, not from tradition, but from genuine respect and gratitude. Thank you, Masterly. You gave me back my life. No, the monk corrected gently. You gave yourself back your life. I just provided the seed. You did everything that mattered. From that day forward, Aaron never said tomorrow again, at least not in that old, procrastinating way. Every task, every dream, every goal that crossed his mind got met with one question: can I start this now? And if the answer was yes, he did. Not perfectly, not always successfully, but immediately, without negotiation, without waiting for perfect conditions that would never arrive. Within 6 months, Aaron had completed his carpentry apprenticeship and started taking on small projects. Within a year, he'd saved enough to open a tiny workshop in a rented garage. Within 2 years, his custom furniture business had a waiting list of clients who appreciated craftsmanship and were willing to pay for quality. But the business success wasn't the real transformation. The real change was internal, invisible to everyone except those who knew him best. His mother noticed it first. The way he'd offer to help immediately instead of saying, "I'll do it later." His father saw in the way Aaron's handshake felt firmer, more grounded, more present. His sister Maya recognized it in how he showed up for family dinners without being reminded, how he kept his promises, how he transformed from someone who talked about plans into someone who executed them. The flour from Master Lee's seed sat on a shelf in Aaron's workshop, dried and preserved, a permanent reminder of the 30 days that changed his life. Sometimes, when he was working late, sanding until his arms ached, or when a project wasn't going right and frustration tempted him to quit and start fresh tomorrow, he'd look at that flower and remember. He'd remember the dead garden of neglected dreams. He'd remember the 30 mornings, easy and hard, when he chose action over comfort. He'd remember Master Lee's words, "You are cured, not because you work hard, but because you began." And he'd keep working, right then, in that moment, building his life one present action at a time. The moral lesson of the story is clear. Procrastination dies the moment you act. Waiting never brings a perfect time. Action creates the right moment. Your future isn't built on grand plans or perfect conditions. It's built on what you choose to do today, right now, without negotiation or delay. Tomorrow is a thief that steals your present while promising a future that never quite arrives. The cure isn't motivation or inspiration. It's the simple, immediate decision to begin. Thank you for watching. Please give this video a like, comment, share with someone, and subscribe for more amazing stories.